Hi! Sorry for no video last week. Also, new location. I live in Chicago now. That's a video for another time. Instead, we're gonna talk about puppets. Ooh, I love puppets so much. I have cried watching the Muppet movie essentially every single time that I watch it, but we're not gonna get into that. I had my own puppet show. When I was in elementary school, it was a talk show called Saturday Night with Tommy, and I was the talk show host. I'm not entirely proud of that, but puppets. My roommate, who had never met me, got me this cup. It's a McDonald's promotional cup for the Great Muppet Caper that came out in 1981, and it has all of the Muppets riding little bikes on it because that was the most technologically hard scene to film for that movie. I like the Muppets. I have a picture of Scooter hanging on my wall. He's such an underrated Muppet. I literally love him so much. We also have a picture right here of Jim Henson with Kermit the Frog puppeteering him. And over on the bathroom door, we have a comic strip of the Great Gonzo. I think it's just the idea that these characters and these stories that I love and bring me so much joy or fear, they also bring me a lot of fear, exist in real, tangible reality. These are items that I can hold. They exist in our world because an artist out there cared enough to make it and put it here. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. Despite all of that, and despite the fact that I have loved puppets as long as I can remember, I have never attempted to make one. And this is the story of how I made my puppet. I had numerous designs, but I'm not gonna show them to you because I want it to be a surprise. I decided to make a rod puppet. So these are puppets like Kermit the Frog, Elmo, Abby Cadabby, most of the Gelflings from the Dark Crystal. A hand rod puppet is when the puppeteer uses one hand to operate the mouth and then operates both the arms or one of the arms with rods. I thought this would be a good puppet to make because one, it requires a lot less material, and two, I wouldn't need a second puppeteer to help me operate the puppet. So yeah, I'm gonna make a puppet and I'm gonna have a puppet. Let's get started. So the first thing I had to do was go to the library to print out all of the patterns. I got all of my patterns for free from the Kreutinger website. He makes fantastic puppet videos with step-by-step tutorials, and he has multiple free patterns available on his website. And I will leave a link both to his website and to his YouTube channel in the description box down below. Also, let's not forget the library fit. We have thrifted sweater, thrifted jeans, belt I stole from my mom, boots, and de piece de resistance. Animal socks. I need people who see me in public to know what I'm about, and I'm about Muppets. Can't even see my feet, but I'm wearing Elmo socks with Cookie Monster as we speak. I printed the patterns, and next it was time to go to Michael's to get all of my supplies. Michael's is fun, it's fresh. It also scares me a little. I felt like I was being judged by old ladies and indie teenagers. The first thing I did was pick out my foam. I got 1/2 inch foam. I figured it would be the best foam that would be thick enough that it wouldn't be collapsing on itself, but wouldn't be so thick that it would be impossible to actually operate the puppet. Now, originally my puppet was going to be made out of fleece. I was torn between two blue options, but eventually I decided that I'd rather have a fuzzy puppet, and I ended up going with a more fluffy gray fabric. We also got felt in different colors. I got red, pink. Oh, and I also got black felt. After I got home, I started working on my puppet basically immediately. The first thing I did was cut out all of the paper patterns and tape any pieces together that needed to be taped together. I cut out all of my pieces and it was time to move on to the foam. I decided not to cut out any of the features yet. I decided I wanted to make the base of the body first, so the body and the head. That way I could make the rest of the facial features proportionate to the size of my puppet. So I just cut out the body and I cut out the head. And that was all I did that day because Michael's shopping took a lot longer than it should have because Michael's is 30 minutes away from where I live. But that brings us to day 2. Day 2, another pair of Muppet socks. Today we've got my boy Kermit. The first thing I did was glue the head together using rubber cement and went to work on the fabric for the skin. That sounds very creepy, but it's fabric. I cut out the fabric pieces using the pattern. It wasn't hard. It should also be noted that this fabric shed like crazy. I felt like every single time I cut something, there was just a million pieces of fluff everywhere. And I also cut out the felt piece that would go inside the mouth. By that point, time to do some sewing. I took both of the pieces of the head together with the outside facing in, and I went around the whole thing with pins and then sewed it on my sewing machine, making sure to not sew where the neck was going to be or where the mouth was going to be. I also sewed in the mouth for the mouth plate. We moved on to the next step, which was gluing on the mouth plates. I cut the mouth plates out of pieces of a lid of a storage container, and the mouth plates that are actually made out of plastic are included in the pattern. And that leads us to day 3 with yet another pair of Muppet socks. And it was time to work on the body. I glued the foam. I did the same thing that I did with the head where I pinned it so I wouldn't have to wait for it to dry because I'm lazy. I also laid out the fabric, cut out the fabric, and sewed the fabric of the body. From this point forward, basically everything is going to be hand sewn just because it's a lot easier and it's a lot stronger for the stitches that I need to do to attach the appendages. I also pinned on a neck around the neck hole of the puppet's head, and then I worked on actually sewing on the neck. I took this scrap navy fabric and I sewed it around the base of the neck. And next it was time for the arms. Is it 1 in the morning? Yes. Am I going to bed? No. Instead, I'm working on the arms. Look at this little bean. And instead of using one strip of foam like you're supposed to, I'm stuffing all of the scrap pieces of foam because we recycle on this channel. So I just stuff it in the armhole and then I use a pencil and I just shove it as far as it'll go. That's what she said. So I did that and then I moved on to day 4. Brought to you by Gonzo socks and a haircut that I did not like very much. Day 4 consisted of building and constructing the face of my puppet, which I was so excited for. For the eyeballs, I used ping pong balls that I just picked up from Walmart, and I cut them in half using scissors. For the eyelids, I took the piece of pink felt that I had bought from Michael's and I just laid it across the eye in the shape that I wanted the eyelid and then cut it out. And I did the same thing for both of the eyes. For the eyelid, I just took some of the black felt that I had bought and I just cut a little strip. I made sure both the strips were even and I glued them on as eyelids. For the nose, I took another piece of foam and I cut it into the shape that I wanted the nose, traced it around with red felt, cut out that, and did a really loose stitch all the way around it so that I could pull on that thread, gather all the fabric around it, and make sort of like a pouch that was holding the foam. And once I had that little pouch, I sewed that straight onto the puppet face, and that was our nose. I put the nose on first because I felt like if I could make the nose even in the center, it would be easier to make everything else symmetrical. Next, I sewed on both of the arms, again by hand using gray thread. I glued the actual eyes on before I glued on the pupils. That way I could make sure the pupils were looking in the same direction. Now it's time to add the pupils. Adam uses velvet that has sticky on the back. I'm not gonna do that. I actually got little stickers from Dollar Tree of little numbers, and I'm just gonna punch out the little circle that goes in the middle of the 6s and the 9s, and that's what I'm gonna use as the pupil. That way I know for sure that they're the same size. I feel like a genius. I feel like a genius because of this idea. Granted, that was kind of a genius idea. It makes sense. I knew the pupils would be the same size, and that's really important for eye focus with your puppet. What I didn't take into consideration is the fact that the pupils were going to be really, really fucking small. It just didn't really work for what I was going for. So what I didn't get on camera that I ended up doing was peeling off the little sticker dots and tracing a little icing tip with an X-Acto knife. Something that I did do that ended up sticking to the final design was cutting out the pink tongue out of felt and just gluing that sucker in the mouth. I also made some ears that I attached. Some other final touches that actually weren't in my original design. I cut out some circular eyebrows out of some black felt and just glued those on. And I took some of this black wire that I have for jewelry making and I just made him some whiskers. I did not make the whiskers look all nice and clean. Instead, I made them kind of gnarled. And after I put the whiskers in, I was essentially finished. At least as finished as I am with the puppet as of now. So I would like to introduce all of you to my puppet, Oatmeal. Puppets so much. I love puppets so much. So this is Oatmeal, my puppet. I'm really, really excited to get to work with Oatmeal because I don't have a lot of puppetry skills. Obviously, I've only ever owned one puppet. I'm really excited to get to learn to puppet with this guy and to get better at the skill because I think it's so interesting. So let's talk a little bit about him and his design, and then we're gonna move on to some things that I would do differently and some things I still have left to do. So this is Oatmeal. The color scheme was gray, but I also liked warm colors, which is why the pinks and the reds all match. I wanted a very simple color scheme for my first puppet. His mouth obviously opens and closes. Side view, another side view. His arms are a little thinner than I was hoping they would be, especially up here, but I think that's fine, and I don't really mind it that much, and I don't think Oatmeal minds it either. I think his eye focus is ever so slightly off. I feel like I'm making eye contact with him, but at the same time, I feel like it's ever so slightly off. And I think one of the big reasons that we have this problem is because the eyes are sewn directly onto the fabric, and the fabric's really furry. It moves around a lot, and since the eyes are glued directly onto it, they also move around a lot, which I think is messing up the eye focus a little bit. I think if I were to make another puppet with super furry fabric, I would probably cut all the fur off of the fabric where the eye was gonna be covering so that it would be on a smooth surface. I like the whiskers. They look really, really good in person, but they just don't show up on camera. You can kind of see them, but then again, I didn't exactly design this puppet to be a puppet for cameras, so that's not too big of a problem. It's just something I should keep in mind for next time. I still have to give him his arm rods, which are the things I use to actually control his arms. Right now, it's just a wooden dowel. I'm gonna bend some hangers and use those to make the arm rods. But yes, this is my puppet Oatmeal, and I hope that he makes more appearances in YouTube videos. Would you like that? Oatmeal says that this is the end of the video. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye!